You have found the Rational Football League show. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. We put out reactionary videos every week, and we get out the most accurate game picks. Chicago Bears, LA Rams. Bears won 24-18. You know, the Bears offense seemed to have figured it out some, okay? Some. But the Bears offense was awful for almost 3 full quarters, okay? Especially the first half. The first half, they had about 60 yards of total offense by halftime. The Bears offense committed 10 penalties for 84 yards, lots of which pre-snap penalties. How do you have false starts when you're at home? Multiple.
Well, and like, legitimately, if you're asking, it boils down to the coaching. It's a lack of discipline. It's guys overthinking their assignments. It's linemen thinking, wait, okay, it's, we got a 5th guy coming. They're, he's calling man behind me, or he's calling fan behind me, whatever it is. Lukey, whatever we're sliding our protection. And you got to think, okay, I'm picking up this guy, or, oh no, 24 is the mic I got to pick up, so on and so forth. It's just overthinking. It's not being in the playbook well enough. It's not knowing your assignment well enough. It's
awful. It's straight discipline. It falls back on coaching. Noise is not a factor. You're at home. And it's week 4. Right? Let me go on here. Bears offense converted 3 of 9 third downs. Okay. And I'm going to try something here. Okay. Hopefully it works.
Uh-oh. What are we trying?
I'm trying to share my screen. Hopefully it works.
Plus the Asians. Here we go.
Oh. Here we go. Okay.
Passing chart. Okay.
That's great.
Unedited. This is unedited.
Unedited. Okay. If I knew, okay, if you would have told me this is what Caleb's, attempt chart looked like past attempt chart looked like. Look at the depth of target here, right? Where are the aggressive deep shots? I was saying this the entire game, okay? We know, we did a player profile on Caleb. We were in love with his arm strength. We were in love with his aggression downfield, right? Where is that at? Like, I understand, it's high percentage throws, sure, right? But where is especially the middle of field action? Where's the 10 to 20 middle of field action here? Last week against the Colts, they found a rhythm with Cole Kmet across the middle, right? Where is that at today? Why is everything short? 5, at most 5 looks to be 7 yards, right? If not behind the line of scrimmage, right? So I just don't get the offensive flow. I don't get Shane Waldron's plan. I almost threw my fist into my basement wall when we threw another. It was kind of a screen, more like a one yard RPO arrow route to Cole Kmet and had Roma doing stalk blocking for Cole. What is going on? I don't understand it.
Yeah, and you know what? That could be a 2-parter. Here's my negative view of it. So the Rams have one of the weakest secondaries in the league right now. They are ravaged with injuries. What was it? Kyler Murray and the Cardinals just took advantage of 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. had 334 yards, something like that. So anyway, that's a terrible, terrible secondary. There shouldn't have been opportunities to take some shots. I mean, Brock Purdy just torched him for almost 300 yards. Jawan Jennings went for 178 and 3 touchdowns. There definitely should have been opportunities for Caleb Williams to take some shots there. But on the flip side, and I got to give a justification, right? Because if we're trying to be rational about this, I'm trying to have a rational conversation with you about this. Maybe there's concerns about the pass rush. The Rams defensive front with Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse has been pretty strong. I know it's 2 rookies, but Brandon Fisk leads all rookies in pressures, and he's an interior rusher, which is obviously the Bears' weakest area right now on that offensive line. Maybe that's what the thought process was. Just get the ball out of Caleb's hand early, make sure he's not taking too much heat. Obviously, we don't have the PFF scores in front of us. We're recording this Sunday night right after the games have concluded, so that's information is not available to us yet. But it's it seemed like Caleb was under pressure whenever they did try to take a shot. What was your perspective on that?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Braxton Jones was getting beat. Braxton Jones got beat by Jared Verse almost all game. Now that I think back on it, like taking his lunch, bro, like the entire game. And you know, I get that aspect, but where's like the deep crosser? Like where's the deep overs at? Like play action, deep crossing action a little bit. Like they did that too. They connected with Rome last week. I remember against the Colts on that. It was a big chunk play, maybe like 20, 25 yards or whatever it was. Where's more of that at too? Like I just don't get the flow, but they are figuring things out, right? It's not all doom and gloom for them. You know, the run game finally showed up, right? They ran for 131 yards today, 4.7 yards per carry. DeAndre Swift finally showed up, right? He ran for 93 yards, scored a touchdown on 16 carries, also had 72 receiving yards. So looking at close to 200 total yards there. And kind of just give a shout out. I hope Torrey Taylor got a game ball today. He's the punter that they drafted in the 4th round last year. That dude was incredible. He's probably top 2 biggest reasons they won today. One being the defense. Actually, I probably put him first because he set up the defense. Like he was incredible, man. 5 punts for check this out. 277 yards. He was averaging 55 yards a punt. 3 of his 5 punts were pinned inside the 20, more like the 15 into like the 10.
That's what I was going to ask you. You know, obviously the yardage is great, whatever. How often was he pinning them back on that goal line? You know, that's a huge thing. Especially it's not just the Rams' offense is just as injured. You know, as their defense is. Cooper Kupp's not in, Puka Nakua's not in. So the longer you can make them have to drive, the better off you're going to be. And obviously that was the game plan that seemed to work for the Bears. And I know you're feisty about it. I know you're turned up about it. You're supposed to be a Bears fan, you know. But I will say, positive. Bears walk away with a win in this one. And as a Bears fan, that's huge for you. Keeps you within the division. You're 2-2 on the year so far. Still chasing Minnesota, which is a topic we're going to have to discuss a little bit later. But all right, it's okay. So Bears look solid. Defense, offense was not where we like it. You still want to see more explosives, and that's on Shane Waldron. We need to figure that out. I know they had a players meeting with him earlier in the week, saying we need to push the ball down the field. What's your takeaway from the Rams? You know, obviously, again, it's a bit a little biased coming from a Bears fan, but what was your takeaway from Los Angeles?
Yeah, I think, dude, like honestly, if they were healthy, they probably would have won that game. Honestly, right? If Puka and Cooper out there, or Kupp, if they're out there, man, like they probably would have won. I say that because Matthew Stafford, he was dealing. The Rams were moving that like ball. Their pinfall was that they weren't scoring inside the red zone. I think they kicked like 3 field goals. Like that was like the 3 first like scoring drives were like all like field goals. I think. But yeah, I mean Stafford was dealing. He was what hold up real quick. 20 for 29, 224. He did throw that game ending interception there, but he kind of got like hit. And they were able to run it. Kyron had 19 carries for 94 yards and a TUD, right? They were able to run it. They had over 300 yards of total offense. They had 31 minutes time of possession there. Dude, where they fell short were the turnovers. They lost turnover margin. They fumbled it. It was a strip sack that Montez Sweat caused, and then of course that game-ending pick. But dude, they were moving it, right? I think the Bears defense was basically bend don't break philosophy. Stafford was throwing with anticipation. He was standing in that pocket even when we had pressure. I mean, he showed why he's a 16-year vet. Like he was tossing dimes out there to guys that were like rookies and don't really play a whole lot. He's missing his top 2 receivers.
Yeah,
so,
and definitely gotta give a huge shout out to Tutu Atwell. He played fantastic last week against the 49ers. He had another great game today, 4 catches for 82 yards. I mean, the dude's been asked to step up, and so far he has. So, and I agree with you. It's a team that to me appears dangerous. You know, On offense, you can tell they're missing some pieces. I don't know if they're Cooper and Nakua are coming back this season or when they're coming back this season. But if they do, this could be a team that can definitely get dangerous. And on the defensive side, they're young. They're so young. They have Jared Verse. They have Byron Young, who they drafted last year, who was, I believe, no, he didn't take home Defensive Rookie of the Year, but he had 9 sacks last year as a D tackle. Solid player. And now they have Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse. So that D-line is rebuilding and trying to replace the production from Aaron Donald. There's a lot to like in Los Angeles, and it's easy to forget because they're playing a division that has the 49ers. They're playing with the Seahawks, who are currently 3-0. They play tomorrow night. We'll see if they'll be 4-0. But they play in a good division. It's easy to kind of overlook them right now because there's not a whole lot of excitement going on. There's not a whole lot of season high expectations for them. But this is a team that once they put it together, they're going to make some noise. I cannot say if it's going to be this year or next year, depending on when they get able to get healthy. But that's a team that needs to get a little more respect for them. It's a team that needs to get a little bit more respect out there in LA. Washington Commanders, Arizona Cardinals, 42-14 Commanders over the Cardinals. God, what can we say about this game? I mean, broad strokes takeaway. They have something special in Jayden Daniels. He is a special player. He went 26 of, it looks like 30 or 38. What am I saying that right? 233 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a quarterback rating of 96. Who cares about the numbers? The dude is electric out there. He also included 47 rushing yards. I mean, we did a draft profile before the season started, and we knew he was going to be a special player. And we had another video where we talked about the pairing between Jayden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury and how it was like a match made in heaven. That spread offense that Kingsbury wants to run it was made for him, and we're seeing that come to fruition. That years of experience in college is definitely paying dividends right now. That partnership is paying dividends right now. And watch out. Washington is 3-1, dude. I mean, go look to the rest of the division. I think one of the Cowboys are having a rough start. I think they're 1-2 right now, or did they win today?
They are 2-2. They're
2-2.
Yeah, they play on Thursday.
Giants are not a threat. Who gives a fuck about the Giants?
Yeah, Giants are done.
Eagles are 1-3, I think, or are they 2-2 as well?
Yeah, they lost today.
Yeah. So I mean, we talked about it. We said the Commanders won free agency. We said the Commanders had one of the best drafts, if not the best draft this year. Yep. And it's good to know that we still got it and we can still see things, right? They are leading the division right now. They're 3-1. It's early in the season. Again, you don't want to start counting your chickens before they come home to rest. But I mean, this looks like a tough out team. Their defense is playing solid. They held what's been an explosive Cardinals offense so far to just 14 points. They've again got another game where they've put up an insane amount of points. Last week they put up 45 as well, right? Didn't they?
I think so.
The punter, they might as well just release the punter because he's just wasting a roster spot at this point. Might as well pick up another receiver or a defensive back or something. I mean, this team's unreal right now. They are playing absolutely out of their mind. And who could have possibly have guessed this from a rookie quarterback? Well, I mean, besides us, but still, who else could have possibly expected this from Jayden Daniels?
I mean, Kingsbury is doing his thing with that offense, man. Yeah, they put up 38 points last week against Cincy, and then they put up 42 today. So I mean, you can't ask for much better than that, man. Jayden Daniels went 26 for 30. I think he's number 1 right now in completion percentage in the entire league, right? And it's kind of funny because didn't a Bengals DB say last week before the game or even afterwards that they're running a college offense, right? You'll get found out. It was like, all right, bro, but they're still putting up 40 points. So
I will say, okay, to bring a rational take back to this, I do want to point this out here. Cliff Kingsbury, even back in his time in Arizona, was known for having hot starts on the offense or for the team. I think it was one year, I think it was 2019, where they started out 7-0 or something like that, and completely fell apart in the back half. They finished that season, I think 9-6 or something like that. So it's not unheard of for Cliff Kingsbury offenses to get found out, but Kyler Murray, Jayden Daniels, it's tough to say if they're the same level of quarterback, but Jayden Daniels to me right now seems like he's running this offense better than Kyler Murray ever did. This looks like an explosive offense, But I do want to at least include that fact check, reality check of it. Historically speaking, Cliff's offenses do get figured out in second halves.
Yeah, but we are only four weeks in, right? The first quarter of the season's over, so we got a long season. I do want to give some love to that Washington defense too. I know you mentioned that we did a video on them after the offseason ended, how like they had the best like offseason or preseason with like free agent signings and their draft and whatnot. But Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, back there commanding that defense at the linebacker spot. They're doing. I mean, the defense is just doing well too, right? Like I know they had a somewhat tough game last week, right? They gave up 33 points to the Bengals, but today they gave up 14 against the Cardinals, who just put up like 40 points of their own against the Rams 2 weeks ago, right? So they also a very explosive offense, or when they like can be. So this team looks solid. And to your point, the Eagles are 2-2, Cowboys are 2-2. So if things don't fall apart in this, I guess with 3/4 of the season left to go, we still have a long ways. But I can see this team potentially making the playoffs. Potentially,
I think we're beyond talking potentially, like making. But we're discussing, can they win the division at this point? Again, the Cowboys have looked abysmal. The Eagles are getting taken advantage of. The Giants are a non-factor. I mean, they seem like the most competent team right now. And to your point also, I do want to give out 2 shout-outs here to 2 former Carolina Panthers, Jeremy Chin and Frankie Louvu. Yep, 2 guys that were in Carolina last year. We did a video covering Frankie Louvu and calling him one of the best-kept secrets in Carolina because no one knew who he was. We were fortunate enough to do a free agent video for Carolina, and we looked into him. The dude's a stud in the making. I'm not going to make any hyperbole and say he's some superstar or whatever, but the guy's an absolute solid player. Jeremy Chin was, I know a player that Panthers fans were, not excited to see go. So it's good to see them both making noise in Washington. Good for Adam Peters, the new GM for the Commanders. He seems to have done well with his first year of roster construction. But yeah, we're beyond, can they make the playoffs? To me right now, they're the front runner for this division. It's theirs. It's still hard, but it looks like it's theirs to lose. I need to see something from Philly or from Dallas to tell me that they're viable to take this away, because the Commanders are going in and taking people's lunches. The Cowboys seem happy to make a potential comeback against the Ravens. The Eagles look like their offense is still stuck in Brazil. It never got through TSA. So I don't know what's going on with the rest of that division. But there is another side to this game. We do need to talk about the Arizona Cardinals. 1-3 on the season. Speaking of former Eagles coordinators, what's your thoughts on this Cardinal team? What's something they should be looking forward to? What's a hope of theirs? What are you thinking?
It's the Cardinals. They felt pressure the entire game. They allowed 4 sacks. The Washington D-line got after them. Dan Quinn just brought pressure to them. And if you look at the third down kind of conversion stuff, right? The Cardinals only converted 4 out of 11 third downs, which means that they cannot sustain drives. So I really think it's a matter of today for the Cardinals. The Washington defense just got after them with the pass rush. He sacked Kyler Murray a lot. I think Kyler Murray just could not get settled in. And then, with the Washington's explosive offense, the Cardinals fell back a ton and could not recover from that point.
Yeah, I agree. It's tough when your quarterbacks, seem like he's constantly under duress. I will point out one positive because I feel like there's something always to take from it. James Conner has been another stellar game. 18 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Averaged 5.8 yards a carry. He's done well for Arizona since he left Pittsburgh. Marvin Harrison Jr., again, a little bit underwhelming. 5 receptions, 45 yards. The Cardinals is just one of those things to me that they don't have an identity. Kyler's supposed to be their franchise quarterback. He's 16-22 for 142 yards. Their head coach is supposed to be this defensive guru, who came over from Philly, who was part of that great, Super Bowl run. They didn't win it, but obviously made the Super Bowl. And you gave up 42 points to the Commanders. And again, we just discussed, the Commanders are a great team. We expect, them to perform well. Jayden Daniels is playing at a Rookie of the Year pace. But to give up 42 points, I mean, And that's what 25 points in the second half. I don't know what the Cardinals' identity is. Who are they? You're 1-3. It's year 2. At what point do we start building things up? Their offensive coordinator, I do want to give a shout out to him, Drew Petzing. I apologize if I said the last name wrong. We discussed it last year. I think he's one of the most underrated offensive coordinators in the league. He's fantastic. He had Josh Dobbs playing out of his mind while he was there, waiting for Kyle to get back from the ACL tear. I keep going back to who are the Cardinals? I need to see something out of them. This whole experiment could be over before it really gets a start. How long do we keep going with this until we switch things up?
Yeah, they're very. If you're the Cardinals, you're probably very frustrated right now, right? You went for a couple weeks ago, you put a whipping on the Rams, right? It was a complete game, right? And then today they lose 42-14 in that fashion is tough. One thing that they can, to your point, hang your hat on is they are running the ball well. 181 rushing yards today. Lean into that. Right? Lean into that. Using play action. Get Marvin downfield. Get him involved. Him having 42 yards? You said 45. 45 yards today? It's crazy, man. Come on. Just from watching the game, run it. James Conner's there. Set it up. Feed Marvin. See what happens there. But right now, their backs are against the wall. They're 1-3 right now. And it's that point. It's that point. It's still somewhat early, but it's that point. You got to have that man and the mirror talk, right? Like who are we? We have to get this thing going.
Yeah, and again, I do want to include this. I gave a shout out to Drew, the offensive coordinator, a second ago. And I'm also kind of looking at the stats here. It on one hand, it's like, okay, you want to give a shout out to this guy. They put up 28 points against the Bills, but at the same time, they're averaging over the last 3 games against the Rams, Lions, and Commanders. They're averaging, it looks about 13 points a game. They got 10 against the Rams. I'm sorry. I apologize. The last 2 games, they're averaging 13 points a game. Against the Lions, you need more than 13 to play in the NFL. Commanders, there's no reason you shouldn't be getting. The Commanders are playing a great ball right now. Their defense seems solid to me. They're not. We're holding you to 14 points level standard grade. I need more out of the Cardinals. Cincinnati Bengals, Carolina Panthers, 34-24. The Bengals came out on top of this cat fight. To me, this one was kind of a weird one. It was I had it going in the 4-way box on the YouTube TV. It seemed like Carolina was hanging around a lot longer than they probably should have. Andy Dalton had a pick, but I mean, to be fair, it was off Trey Hendrickson smacked the ball as it was coming out. But the numbers just didn't really reflect anything spectacular, and that's kind of what it felt like watching it. Joe Burrow went 22 of 31, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Clean game, no sacks. Jamar Chase had 3 catches for 85 yards, but one of those came on a 63-yard catch where it looked like Carolina decided to bring out for one play a bunch of high schoolers. And I don't know if it was a Make-A-Wish thing or whatever, but they let them play defense, and no one could tackle. So I'm kidding. Obviously, it was paid professionals who decided they didn't want to tackle anymore. But that's what it looked like. So
it did.
I'm not pulling punches. That's legitimately. If you don't come to the RFL show. You don't come to hear our discussion to get sugar-coated bullshit. You come for the real here.
Facts.
But yeah, it was unexciting. It was uneventful. And I don't mean that in terms of they should have, made things happen. It seemed more like Carolina gave this game away versus Cincinnati took it. And to me, it seems to be the reoccurring theme for the Bengals all this year. They're 1-3. It was a must-win game for Cincinnati, as we've kind of discussed a couple times. If you're watching this whole episode here, teams that in this new playoff format, the seventh or third wild card, teams that start off 1-3 or 0-3, 0-4.
It's 1-3.
1-3 have a terrible chance of making the playoffs. Apparently, it's never happened. If I imagine 0-4, it can't be a better statistic. So this really did feel like an early must-win, especially when there was already reports coming out that if the Bengals did lose this game, T. Higgins was probably going to get moved. I would expect Trey Hendrickson to probably be moved. They probably would have just punted on the season. So good on them for coming out and winning a game they had to win against what's generally considered the worst roster in the NFL. But to me, I don't take any of the confidence from this game in Cincinnati. I'm not watching this. I didn't watch this game and walk away thinking that's a team that could push Kansas City for a playoff. Like I don't know what's happened with Joe Burrow. He doesn't seem right.
Yeah. One thing that one good thing at least, I guess. I mean, this was a good opportunity for a get right game. Again, the offense wasn't too explosive for the Bengals, but they were balanced for the most part on offense. They had 232 passing yards. They ran a ball for 141 rushing yards. And the rushing yards was really almost, they were 50-50 split between Chase Brown and Zach Moss. They both had 15 carries. Chase Brown was a little bit more explosive. He had 15 carries for 80 yards. Zach Moss was 15 carries for 51 yards. Also, Chase Brown scored 2 touchdowns in the red zone, I think on the goal line. So that's one thing to kind of take notice. Okay, we're pretty balanced. They had a balanced attack on offense. They had T. Higgins going 6 catches for 60 yards. So his second game back is not too bad. I know you already mentioned Jamar Chase getting 63 of his 85 receiving yards off that one play where he just broke like four tackles and just ran faster than everyone on the damn field. So that's one thing to kind of hang your hat on, right? The defense itself, I guess, didn't really wow me a whole lot. They did cause that one, pick where the ball kind of just floated up in like the air. But they also generated, at least on the surface, not much pressure, I guess. I mean, I guess the pressure did cause that one pick, sure, but they had 0 sacks, right?
Yeah, that's how Andy Dalton seemed pretty comfortable all night.
Yeah, and it kind of shows that in like the stats too. They converted 50% of their third downs. The Panthers did. They're 7-4-14, so not crazy numbers there, but converting half is not too shabby. The Panthers ran 70 plays. They actually had the ball longer than the Bengals. They had the ball for 31 minutes. So they were kind of able to keep drives going against that Bengals defense. I mean, this was a game that didn't really wow me per se. I want to say this was like a get right, game where like, oh wow, they came out, they kind of showed who the Bengals were. But this is something kind of built upon because as you already mentioned too, starting off 0-4, you're pretty much selling the farm then.
Yeah,
season's over.
I'll compare it like this. So again, if you're watching this video, you probably didn't see our Sunday Night Football recap. We did cover that already. But to us, or at least to me, the Ravens look like a team that, as we mentioned, in a similar situation. They needed to win, right? You couldn't afford to lose that game and fall further behind. That looked like a get right game for the Baltimore Ravens. Their rushing attack was strong. They put up over 200 yards. Derrick Henry 199. They played how they wanted to play. They established their will early. They had a huge run, and they just beat the Bills in submission. That looked like what I expect the Ravens to play like the rest of the season. That's what their goal is, and they seem to have found that identity. With Cincinnati, I still don't know what it is. It was a get right, it wasn't a get right game. It was a game they had to win. Sure, they won it. But I know we've kind of discussed in some of our videos that defenses are running a lot more too high safety now. They are daring teams to run the ball at us, is what they're saying. They're lightening the box. And I don't think Cincinnati has adjusted well to that change yet. And I think that goes back to the decision to let Joe Mixon walk. He signed with the Texans. And now you're trying to replace him with a running back by committee with a bunch of, unfortunate to say, cast-offs. Zach Moss is a cast-off from Indianapolis. And I believe Chase Brown, let's see, where's he from?
He's from U of I. Second year, I think.
Second year. Okay, so he's a
ILL.
Second year, 5th round pick. So, teams again are doing the same thing to the Bengals. They're daring the Bengals to run at them, and they aren't adjusting. They're trying. 31 attempts is much better than we saw from who was it? The Cardinals or whatever it was that we discussed, where they had 22 attempts. But it's they're going to need to figure it out. Or this is a team to me that I could question their potential to make the playoffs. I can legitimately feel like I could question that.
I mean, next week they played the Ravens. So,
oh, good Lord.
Yeah, so if today was their chance to get the things back on track, because you're going against the Ravens here in about a week. So, and they're coming off a really good game against a really good Bills team. So if you, I don't want to say week 5 is make or break the season, but this is almost make or break the season. And again, like, I don't want to be too irrational here, but you can't drop another game right now, go 1-4, especially lose another. I guess it'd be the first game in their actual division here. Mm-hmm. But that gap will just continue to widen. Like, Sunday is you have to win that game if you're the Bengals. That is a playoff game for them right now.
Yeah, again, I agree. Even I was looking at the schedule. The schedule does get a little lighter after the Ravens. They face the Giants, Browns, Eagles, then Raiders. So 4 teams that aren't performing up to expectations. I'll leave it at that, to put it kindly. But you can't start off 0-1 against a conference team. The Steelers are already 3-1, or 3-1, right? They did end up losing to the Colts today.
Yes, they did.
The Joe Flacco-led Colts.
Yep.
So you can't afford to keep falling further and further behind, and they need to figure it out. Teams aren't going to let him take the deep shots. You're not going to be able to get Jamar Chase running down the sideline by himself anymore. So you need to find a way to hold the safety and attack the middle of the field, or attack the middle space between those 2 safeties. If not, I just don't see you as a viable team. But to flip it over to the other side of this, again, you look at it, 34-24. It feels like this should have been a much more exciting game, but it kind of felt like a snooze fest, to be honest.
Yeah.
You had to force yourself to watch through it. But this cat fight here, the Carolina Panthers, for me, they absolutely look better with Andy Dalton at quarterback. Let's not beat around the bush here. They look much more competent, but to me, they still seem like the worst roster in the league. The defense, the tackling is atrocious at times. At receiver, I mean, it felt like during the game watching it felt like they were really trying to force the ball to Deontay Johnson. And looking at the stats, they did 13 targets. He had 7 receptions, 83 yards. Like we said before, he's a good number 2. They need their number 1 pick overall, Xavier Legette, to step up. He had 6 catches on 10 targets, 1 touchdown, 66 yards, it looks like. I go back to the same thing. This to me still feels like the worst roster in the league. More viable, definitely more viable now. But what's your takeaway from the Panthers?
Yeah, offense is definitely 10 times better with Dalton in. 25 for 40, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns, and one pick for him. Chuba, he's not bad. Or Chuba, am I saying the first name wrong? Yeah, the running back.
Yeah.
He went for 18 carries, 104 yards, and touchdown, 5.8 yard average per carry. So they got something there with the rushing game. Just keep on, again, kind of going back to what I said about the Bengals. The Panthers were pretty balanced on offense. 220 passing yards, 155 rushing yards. It's just no one on the defense could tackle Jamar Chase on that play. It would end up being almost the deciding factor there for them. They're kind of I don't know what else. I mean, they were kind of just there, and then they kind of just like lost it a little bit. But if you are a Panthers fan, I never wanted to say you can take solace in losing, but the team does look better with Andy Dalton right now. So that's something kind of look forward to. I'm actually pulling up the rest of their schedule right now as well to kind of see what's all shaking out here. They play the Bears this Sunday, which with that Bears offense, they could potentially win that game. I'm not even joking. The Bears offense is a whole other mess.
I will tell you right now, that game, I think Caleb Williams goes for 350 yards.
You know what? I'll make that bet. I'll bet that right now, FanDuel. I'm going over. And then they have the Falcons. The Falcons aren't bad. They just beat the Saints today, and then they have Washington. You know what I mean? And then the Broncos. The Broncos are also a team that's winning dirty right now. Ugly, right? But there's something going on a little bit better with that offense. Yeah, I mean, I'll just leave it at that. You know, I think they're still figuring stuff out. The roster is still needs talent and needs work, but it does look better than the Bryce Young led Panthers right now.
Yeah. Again, I think it's a good segue into this kind of question about it. Where do you think this goes with Bryce Young at this point? You know, the team has looked much better with Andy Dalton under center. There's absolutely no denying that at all. How much is Bryce Young able to learn, you know, from a backup role? When do you go back to him? If Andy Dalton keeps looking good, or you just all of a sudden week 13 go, fuck it, we're out of the playoffs, go back to Bryce Young? How does this situation play out for you? What do you think is ideal?
If I were the Panthers, I would full on just move on from like Bryce Young. Honestly, I would personally trade him, because this to me feels like Zach Wilson and the New York Jets. Robert Saleh kept saying, you know, Zach Wilson's our guy. You know, even though we benched him, he's our guy. He's a work with us, whatever. And he's not the guy. He was not the guy. You can see that, right? I have a tough time believing that you can go back to a young quarterback year 2 after benching, be like, yeah, we benched you so you can learn and go back out there. I don't see a lot of times where good things happen after that, right? You made that conscious choice. Like, once you bench a guy, right? Like, it's hard to come back from that. Plus, they benched him just because they felt the season was getting out of hand, right? So if you put a guy in there who's performing better than the guy that you just benched, why in the hell would you go back to the guy who you just benched? You see the guy out there doing well or doing better than the guy who was out there before. So why would you end up going back to him? So it's a weird case. They're going to finish out this year with top 3 worst record, right? So I'm thinking long term, right? Let's say they get the first, second, or third pick again. Not going to take a quarterback after you just benched your franchise guy. You're not going to take a quarterback? You know?
I hope not. This is, I hope not.
It's weird.
I think it goes back to the initial sin is what I'll say about it. The initial sin with drafting Bryce Young. I believe in Bryce Young. I still like Bryce Young. I liked him coming out of Alabama. I like him now. To me, he's decisive. He's a playmaker. He's a point guard. He's one of those guys that's supposed to be able to read defenses quickly, deliver the ball accurately to playmakers, let him make plays in space. And he's athletic enough to keep plays alive. He has a similar skill set as Brock Purdy. I think the problem is you drafted a guy who's supposed to be a point guard and asked him to be Steph Curry. I mean, it's not his game. You had no talent on that roster to begin with. Your leading receiver his rookie year was Adam Thielen.
Yeah, they did him dirty.
So you did him dirty from the start. I agree. I do agree with you. Trade him away, because it's not going to work at this point. You've already destroyed his confidence. There's no viable situation for you to turn back to him. You're not a competitive roster now. You won't be a competitive roster after one draft. It's going to take a couple years. Dave Canales, to me, seems to not be a quarterback whisperer. He's a veteran whisperer. He is getting the most out of a veteran Baker Mayfield and now a veteran in Andy Dalton. Let him work his magic with a veteran guy. Down the line, 1, 2 years, 3 years, we'll say. Once you've got that roster built up, you spent a high draft pick on, say, Travis Hunter next year, Luther Burden, or, oh my God, what's the kid from Arizona? Tatoria McMillan?
Oh, yeah. T-Mac. I only know his nickname. Yeah.
I'll go with the nickname, T-Mac. Once you get that kind of a guy, you get a couple more pieces in there, then take a shot on the quarterback. Once you've got it set and you can really have something for him to work with, absolutely take a shot. But you don't need to rush it. You don't need to bring in a guy just to bring another guy in, right? And that's what the Browns did for years. It just never worked. So I agree with you. Trade him away, let him go somewhere else, let him get as much as you can for him if there's any value for him. And I think start building this roster the right way. Build the roster, then put in a quarterback. Don't try to do it in reverse. It rarely ever works out. So
yeah, you just brought up a good you brought up a really good point. I mean, who's to say that you can't have Andy Dalton be that bridge quarterback for next two seasons?
Yeah.
Or at least next season, right? Like this one, next one, at least,
Exactly. Or do what the Vikings did, right? Sam Darnold, because they still have J.J. McCarthy. So they're probably going to at some point want to turn to a J.J. McCarthy. If Sam Darnold's available, I know he was there before, you bring him back. Or, something like that. Do you trade for a Zach Wilson who's now got to sit and learn in the Sean Payton system and, he's got that lively, talented arm. He's more experienced now. Do you try to bring in one of those guys and see if Dave Canales can't work his magic with one of those more talented guys who have been placed into bad situations and see what he can do? Right? Ride that out with a year or two, have some fun memories, teeter on maybe a playoff roster, and just build the roster. That's my take on it, right? But it starts with nailing the draft. And it sucks to be talking about the draft already when we're in week 4 of the season, but unfortunately, that's what I feel like Carolina's kind of already at. They're 1-3, and to me, I don't see them winning a whole lot more games after that. Welcome back to the RFL show. Sorry for that brief intermission, but this episode is sponsored by Coke Zero. Coke Zero. It's not as good. Anyway.
Not as good. Coke Zero. They need to change the damn recipe.
Coke Zero. It's black writing instead of white.
That's fucking hilarious. It's fucking hilarious. That's so funny.
Coke Zero. When black just feels better.
All right, bud.